Your Excellency, thank you so much for sharing your time here with us. This one came in from Anonymous in Florida asking if you have any thoughts on the recent letter sent to the Cardinals about establishing an ecclesiastical jurisdiction for the Vitus Ordo. One concern I have is that it explicitly asks for the 1962 liturgical books. Scholars have shown that significant ruptures occurred in 1911 when there was a change to the breviary, and then in 1955 the Bugini changes to the Holy Week calendar. And would you have any? It says here, would the bishop for the new jurisdiction be able to restore these earlier liturgical books within the jurisdiction? Should the jurisdiction be defined as Vitus Ordo without any explicit mention of 1962? Kind of a very complicated liturgical question here, but maybe you could break it down for us here.
I think the question is appropriately complicated because the situation that we find ourselves in is complicated. I really have heard about the possibility of this jurisdiction being established. I have a sense of caution about that, just because and I certainly don't know much about it. I mean, I think it just began circulating as this consistory is happening. But the jurisdiction, how that is structured, I'm concerned once again that this would really further isolate this ancient tradition of the church from being considered part of the ordinary day-to-day life of the Catholic Church in the 21st century. So to the extent that that is a valid concern, I would encourage that the Cardinals and, of course, Pope Leo, they're the ones making the decisions, but I would urge that it not be sort of ghettoized. In a sense, that's what's happened with Traditionis Custodes. I mean, very complicated and very differently applied in different areas, but when that document said it shouldn't be in a parish church, it's like, wait a minute. To me, that is just one step of saying this is something that isn't part of the ordinary flow of the Catholic community. I think the more we can overcome that and simply acknowledge that it is and should be part of the ordinary flow of the community. So I have serious reservations about this jurisdiction, and really there's so many questions. It's more questions than answers at this point. The point about what missal to use, I would agree that if Rome does decide to allow a much more open use of the traditional rites of the Mass, often called the traditional Latin Mass, to open that up to all the questions, and certainly the 1955 questions arise. There was a gradual, you could say, eroding of some of that. And so I would say if this jurisdiction does become established, I really have my doubts about whether it's a good thing, but that it at least not restricted to one phase of all of this confusion, and simply say, let's embrace the traditional Latin Mass, whatever missal, and the scholars still have to sort all that out. But so very complicated. I don't know if my answer has helped at all, but I think we do have to acknowledge the complication, and we do, I believe, need to pray for and do all we can to say the traditional Latin Mass, whatever form it is in, it's part of our heritage. It's about honoring the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And to that extent, it needs to be preserved and normalized in the life of the church once again, and not sort of said, okay, well, if you really want this, you can do it over there in this corner, as long as you keep it quiet and you don't let most people even know about it. That isn't the way the church should operate. If it's valid, which it is, if it's good, which it is, it needs to be part of the rhythm of the church, and allow people to certainly not force people one way or the other, but allow their hearts to move them. I guess I would conclude with the idea of I'm what's called a diocesan priest. I didn't choose a religious order like the Dominicans or the Jesuits or the Franciscans, but they're part of the richness of the priesthood of the church, those different communities. There can be some real different things, but we're all focused on Jesus Christ. That is part of how God has made us. We all have different likes and preferences. It should always refocus us on Christ and the challenging truth that he brings us. But the Mass should be an opportunity to be united in him, focused on him. And that's where we need the traditional Latin Mass, because there's too much of the Novus Ordo, which I've celebrated most of my life. It forgot to focus on Jesus Christ. So every element of the church and her liturgy that focuses on Jesus Christ is a treasure that we need to sort through the complexities and keep as part of the natural day-to-day rhythm of ordinary Catholic life.